today. Mr. Damen Lindelof, who is a writer and producer. Raffey Cassidy. Britt Robertson. Mr. George Clooney. Writer, director and producer Brad Bird. And writer and executive producer Mr. Jeff Jensen. Okay, so we're going to break a little bit with the tradition and offer the first question to the floor. There's a young reporter, aptly, he's called Jack Callahan. Jack, can we have your first question, please?
Jack.
Hi, I'm Jack, and I'm 15 from Interfilm. George, I wondered how important it is to make socially conscious films that appeal to my generation.
Well, it's a good question, actually. That's a very good question. You guys, are you a little embarrassed right now?
Yes. That's awesome.
You know, I think it is important to do that. I don't know that you always set out to do those films. I've done several films that probably weren't very inspirational to 15-year-olds. But this one, I thought, I liked the message, and I thought that the idea of, when I was growing up, when I was your age, I'd grown up in a period of time where the idea was that your voice, not a famous person's voice, not a politician's voice, but the individual voice could change the world. Could. And we saw it happen. We saw Rosa Parks on a bus. We saw things change. And we believed, when I was growing up, that we had the ability to do that. I think over time, we've lost sight of that a little bit. And I think it's always good, and I think it's really important to make a film like this that gets to say, you know, your individual voice, the future is not inevitable, and what seems very dark and gloomy doesn't necessarily have to be. We created it, we can change it, and it doesn't have to just be the people in the greatest amount of power. It can be, you know, a 15-year-old young reporter. So I think it's important to make them, but I'm glad that you got to ask that question.
Thanks. Now, a question for the panel, for the filmmakers, for Brad and Damen and Jeff. I'm sure that everybody in this room has a favourite Disney film. And I just wondered, in what ways does Tomorrowland, A World Beyond, in what ways does it stay very true to Walt Disney's vision and to his values? Brad, would you like to kick off?
Sure. I think that he had Walt Disney as an individual had a view of the future that it was undecided but exciting. It was something that could be fun. It was something that where science wasn't the enemy. It was actually just another thing to play with and be inspired by. So I think that in the loosest sense, we were trying to make a film that kind of came from that camp. It's not a film about the section of Disneyland that is called Tomorrowland. It's more about the idea of what tomorrow could be.
Damen and Jeff, would you like to join in on that?
Yeah, I think there's also a big part of Disney and what Walt's vision for what that word would come to mean that was sort of associated with magic. And for us, you know, we didn't want to make a movie that had any magic in it. We did want to ground it in reality, but that is very much a part of what a Disney film is, that idea of when I first saw Mary Poppins being able to jump into the sidewalk. And so I think that we try to take the idea that Brad was just talking about and marry it to something that was a little more fun and a little more adventurous.
The movie used to open with George jumping into a sidewalk, but we thought it was kind of repetitive.
Yeah, we cut that part. He did his own stunt, yeah.
I do the same good British accent.
And Jeff, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, researching Disney history was a huge part of our brainstorming process, finding ideas, finding inspiration in things like Walt's original plan for Epcot as a place that would be an actual living laboratory for scientists and industrialists and artists coming together to find ideas to make the world a better place. There was something very inspiring and idealistic about that inspired a lot of the things that I think are pretty evident in the film.
And if we could just go to our cast now, George, you said that the optimism appealed to you, and so much about the film was, you know, on the script and on the page, but also to Britt and to Raffey. What about the scale of the film itself? George, you've been on a few film sets in your time. I mean, how did this compare?
Oh, this little independent film
Yeah.
that we just
Yeah.
did? Oh, it's a big one. It was big. I mean, the fun part for us is that oftentimes when you work on a film that's of a large scale, it's all just green screen. I mean, you guys have been on sets like that before, and you don't really get any idea of the scope. And we were in places that, either we had these giant, beautiful sets that we got to actually see, or we were in, Valencia in that insane building that I've never seen anything like it, which is also very much of a dreamer who built that. So
Calatrava, you mean, yeah.
yeah, it was unbelievable. So I think that I think for all of us, the fun part was that we got to see some of the scope as opposed to having it put in later in CGI. I think that was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to answer that, Britt?
Sure. I think there were so many scenes that I had even just by myself, sometimes with green screen, and I haven't done a lot of that at all. But sometimes at least you have actors to work off of. I oftentimes would just be, doing scenes by myself, whether it be in a wheat field or what have you. And it was so helpful that we had, someone who planted all of this wheat for miles and miles for me to fly over and react to, because I really do think that it elevated the film and the performances. But yeah, just being a part of it was really incredible.
Raffey?
Yeah, I thought that it was really fun, and all the sets were amazing because each time you looked at it, you'd spot something new, and they're just really cool. And because it was so big, everybody became like a family, and it was just really fun.
That's great. Brad, just before we open it to the floor, I wondered if you could just tell us a little bit about your background in animation and how it informed your live action films. Of course, we're all great fans of The Incredibles, The Iron Giant, and Ratatouille.
The question was what?
About how your background in animation, how it informs your live action films?
I think it helps in just pre-visualizing stuff. In animation, you kind of have to know what you want, and it helps to be able to draw things to show people, what you're doing. So in this film, where we were dealing with a lot of things that partially were there and partially weren't, the sequence where Britt touches the pen and spends, several minutes with no cuts kind of in Tomorrowland, all of that had to be planned, and some of it was there and some of it wasn't, but we had to know everything that was there, because the camera is constantly moving from something that's there to something that's not, and following something that's not there, and that leads you to something that is there, and animation helped with that, definitely.
That's great. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll open it to the floor, and there's a gentleman in the front row here who's got the first question.
You have to excuse my voice, I'm just back from Cannes and my body hates me. I've got a question for everyone from my son who's 10 years old. He would like to know, if you had a key that could either show you something or take you anywhere, where would you go and why would you go there?
Thank you.
Who wants
You're
to
the
go
king.
first?
Where would you like
I've
to
got
go?
some time.
Robbie, where would
Thank
you go? Where would you go?
I'd go to a forest that was filled with trees and wolves, so then I could become like a wolf lady. And then, other friends with wolves. And then I think, with jetpacks. It had to have jetpacks in it.
Jetpack with wolves?
There's
Yeah.
no way
That's
that
good.
I do better than that.
You came to the top.
Oh,
Where'd
God,
you
it's-
go? Where'd you go?
I mean, it's not as good as Raff's, but I'd love to go on a nice vacation to the Maldives. I would love to spend some time there. I hear it's beautiful, because I'd love to go diving with underwater animals. I think that'd be really cool. That's all I got. Sorry.
Anyone else got an answer for that?
I'm not going to come up with anything better than the wolf.
I know.
The jetpack.
The wolf one was really good too. Yeah, wolf in a jetpack.
Well, yeah,
Friday night
I
for
want to
me.
hear more about. I want to hear more about. Do we give the jetpacks to the wolves, or what exactly is happening here?
I think that maybe we could create an animal that was mixed with a jetpack, so it's like a wolf that could.
Yeah.
I surrender, man. You're answering all
my
my
God.
questions.
We also have a new film, which is exciting.
Wolfpack.
Wolfpack. Very good. Yeah. Very good.
Anybody else from the end of the table like to suggest what they'd
I'm not going to try to top that at all.
Okay,
Wolfpack
well,
is were
yeah.
pretty awesome.
We'll leave it at that then.
Raffey
Okay, this
Cassidy
gentleman in
joined.
the front row here.
Like the man next to you, your career began in television and you're moving into movies. The man next to you has had a massive success behind the camera as well as in front of the camera.
Yeah, thanks
with
for that.
Writing, directing,
Pressure.
producing. Are you looking to follow the same path? Do you want to move into writing and directing and producing as well?
Woo. Maybe. I would be like, maybe, 30 years from now. I have a lot to I'm just saying I'm not as advanced as you, my friend. I need more time to get there.
Backtrack it.
Here I go, scooting away. Yeah, I mean, it definitely interests me, but I just feel like if I did it, I would want to do it well, and I need more experience, and I need to work with more people like him and Brad, and this whole group of people. Everyone's so amazing on this film, and I just hope to do more films like this, and gain some experience. Take it, one step at a time at this point.
Fair enough.
John, you.
Brad, your name has become synonymous with family movies, and that people tend to think of children's movies and adult movies, but the family movies seems to be very rare nowadays. Is there a secret? Because all the films that I'm thinking that I like, you've often been connected with. Is there a secret to that all ages appeal?
If there is, I wish I knew it, because I have no idea. I'm just like, that seems like a good idea. It's not a very intellectual process. I mean, I think that movies are tough because you're trying to connect with people whose lives are very different just than yours, and it's several years from now. And I think that if you think about it logically, there's no way you would ever try to do the job. And the only way that's ever made any sense to me is make a movie that I would want to see and just hope that other people connect with that.
Okay, there's a gentleman just here in the front, and then we'll go to the other side. Yep.
It's a question for Jeff, Brad, and Damen. In crafting such a sort of upbeat adventure movie, especially one that revolves around sort of the pursuit of optimism and the aspiration of optimism, is there a greater statement sort of embedded within it about the sort of more pessimistic, downbeat nature of tentpole blockbusters now?
Well, I don't think that any of us set out to turn up our noses at those films. We actually love those films. I'm the first in line for Hunger Games. I'm going to see Mad Max tonight when we're finished here. I love that stuff, but I also feel like we're not seeing the alternative. And I think that so many of those films, while entertaining to watch, I don't want to live in those realities. I don't want robots trying to kill me or zombies trying to eat me. And I think that
Nibble on you, maybe.
Nibble, yeah, just nibble. But I think that Walt lived in a time that was just as turbulent as the time that we live in now, if not more so. And still, he was able to not just imagine but believe in our capability as a species to sort of transcend all that. And I kind of feel like we were sort of sitting around complaining about the fact that future didn't exist in film. We were sitting around and complaining about the fact that it's very hard to make an original film, not do a sequel or a superhero movie, but we weren't doing anything to make one. And so those were all the ideas. This was about kind of what we could do as opposed to what everybody else was doing.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. 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 No, I mean, I think there's a line in the film where George's character as a kid, they say, why did you make this jetpack? And he says, I got tired of waiting around for someone else to make it for me. I think that's kind of the deal, is we ourselves loved these kind of films that were looking up and looking forward. And we're inspired by Close Encounters in a way. We discussed that a lot. Something where someone's implanted with a vision, and even though it feels scary at moments, it's actually leading toward enlightenment. And we hope to make a film like that.
Jeff, would you like to comment on that? Utopian rather than dystopian?
No, some of my favorite films are dystopian, bleak, and I think that some of those movies have a value in scaring us, if you will, toward living differently. But again, we've seen so many of those kinds of films in our culture, and I love the idea of making an original film that was like a marketplace correction on that, and offering something just different.
Marketplace correction.
That was the original.
Yeah, that's what I think that's what it's called in Germany.
Yeah, it is.
Tomorrowland.
Marketplace correction.
That sounds kind of dystopian, actually.
There's a lady in the front row. Yeah.
Yeah, hi. My name is Rita. I'm from Finland. Mr. Clooney, I would like to ask you what was intrigued you in this script? And you have been for years known as human rights activist, like Sudan. You've been there and also concerned about the environment. How would you see tomorrow?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Here, let me answer that really quickly. Let me toss these in. I wanted to work with Brad, and I tried to work on another film earlier before, and I really wanted to work with Brad and Damen, and they brought me a script, and funnily enough said that they'd written it with me in mind, and then I read the description and it said, 55-year-old angry bitter has-been kind of, and I thought, really, you wrote that
Handsome.
for me? Handsome
has-been.
Formerly handsome. But no, the minute I got the script, I wanted to do it. I wanted to work with them. I loved the idea. Again, what we've talked about before, I love the idea of doing an original film. I thought it was very brave. I love the themes in it. I like the idea and the argument that I grew up in and around news, and I grew up in a time where news was as bad. Quite honestly, if you think about the '60s, there was so many things going wrong. We thought the world was falling apart with the assassinations and with the with the civil rights movement and the race riots and the women's rights movements and everything felt like the world was going to fall apart. And still there was the Apollo mission, and there was us landing on the moon, and there was this version that we always thought it was going to somehow work out, And my father used to, when he would do the news, he would always try to put things in perspective and say, let's look at, there's some skinheads down here rioting in Cincinnati, Ohio. There's 7 of them, and you cover it because it's a news story. But then you go up to the top tower, 40 stories up, and you take a shot of these 7 little people in the middle of Fountain Square, so you understand, in the perspective of the real world, what really is going on. And I thought that's important because, you'll spend a lot of time. Yes, I go to Sudan often, and South Sudan now, and Darfur is lighting on fire again. And it's a very difficult time in a lot of these places, certainly in sub-Saharan Africa and all over the Middle East. And you'll see these things and you'll feel just completely inundated if you watch the news, and you should watch the news. But it can't just be that. There has to be some positive in it. And understanding that, for instance, the endeavors that I've taken up, we know we'll never completely succeed in. I'll be long dead before they'll be solved. But participating is part of the game, getting in and getting involved. And so I've always believed in that. Again, it was part of what attracted me to the film. That was as fast as I could do it.
Thank you. There's a lady on this side, and then we'll move the mic back and bring it forward again. Yep.
Hi, Carly Newman. Question for the 3 cast members. You obviously had stuntmen to do the dangerous stunts, but I wondered, what did each of you find most scary that you were asked to undertake?
Well, Raph had all the challenging stuff. I just had to roll around and react to things being, shot at me or, scary people attacking me. But I remember you were so good on all the ratchets, but there was one ratchet that I had to do, not many, but there was one where I had to climb up onto this platform where I had to go. I had the time bomb, and I remember because I have to be ratcheted up onto this platform, and then I have to lift myself up onto the platform so that I can stand. And I trained for a really long time before, well, not a long time, like a month, but a while before we started shooting just on that specifically. And so it wasn't that scary, but I was just afraid that I wouldn't be able to pull off the struggle and still be able to make it on the platform. That was like the biggest challenge for me. But you had all the real stuff to do. That was such a lame answer in comparison.
No, but you trained for months on like ab stuff and.
Yeah, I was working on my abs.
Well, I trained for quite a while on martial arts, but I was quite, because like we worked with an amazing stunt team, I was quite lucky to be able to do quite a lot of the stuff. So yeah, but I never found it scary because they always made sure I was comfortable with what I was doing. So I was always just up for, having
She's
a go.
very brave.
George, anything scary?
I trained for minutes because I had to fight an old other TV doctor. I was afraid of just getting beaten with a cane the whole time. I think that was our great stunt, wasn't it? You know, I've gotten to the point in my career, it is funny, because when I was in my 30s, you know, I used to be the guy that punched somebody and walk away with like the explosion behind you.
Yeah.
And now I just get the hell beaten. It just socks me in the face and I fall down and cry. So no, I didn't have to do a whole lot. I just mostly had to get beaten up a lot, which was kind of fun for me. So I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Gentleman in the second row here is the mic, yeah.
Hi, I'm Jan from Belgium. My question is for Mr. Clooney. How strange was it to see the younger actor who plays the mini-me?
A little bit, just so you know, because probably you don't know this because you're from Belgium, I actually played that part too. That's how good I was.
Yeah, very convincing.
I was very convincing as that part.
Mocap.
Yeah, it's very. It was all. He was great, wasn't he? I was blonde when I was his age, strangely, and now I'm getting blonde again. That's good fun. But he was terrific. He was really fun. You know, I didn't get to work with him, obviously, because, you know, I would be working with myself somehow, which I don't want to do. But, yeah, I didn't really get to see any of it until I saw the film, you know, see what he was doing until I saw the film. So it was fun to see what impersonations of me he was going to do.
There's a gentleman in the third row. We're trying to take these as the hands go up. Go ahead. Yeah.
Hi folks, Stephen from Ireland. Congratulations on the film. Now, this could be a question open to the entire panel, but travel plays a central role within this film, and there's three real wondrous methods of travel that appeal to both kids and adults. There's the jetpacks, the teleportation, and the rocket out of the Eiffel Towers. So which would you choose? And to follow on from that, speaking of travel, George, you previously had plans to visit Ireland with Bono at one stage a couple of months ago, and he broke his, I believe he said it to one of my colleagues, and he broke his arm, and then that was put back on the back burner. So has that been rescheduled? Because there's great anticipation.
I'll start by saying jetpack. No, you know, it's funny how stories sort of kind of come and go. Bono's a friend, and he was in a horrible accident. He really got the hell beaten out of him. But we hadn't planned to, you know, to come there. But I do want to go, and I would like to go sometime, you know, in the coming months, in the warmer time, to go to Ireland. I would like very much to do it. But that wasn't canceled because he got in an accident. He's on the mend, which is the good news. So. But I do a jetpack. Jetpack, don't you think, over a rocket? Because a rocket, you got a lot of, you know, what do you think?
A lot to handle.
What would you do?
Jetpack. What was the other option? Oh, the teleportation. Yeah.
Oh, well, teleportation.
That's cool, but it's vibrating, and you know you feel kind of ill after it. I'm jetpack all the way. Yeah.
Just to get from the airport to your house in traffic.
Yeah, that would be great.
Wouldn't that be good?
Yeah, I get chilly easily, so I'd probably go with the teleportation.
Yeah, I love that. I get cold too. I don't know what to choose. A jetpack.
Somebody's got to take a rocket. Take a rocket.
I'm going to take rocket ship.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, why not? But also because I remember when we were writing this story, I said there has to be rocket ships in Tomorrowland. I want to go to space. I'd love to go to the moon. Yeah. No much further than that. But.
Okay, great. Gentleman in the third row, Garth.
George,
George,
this is an optimistic film, very upbeat, very enjoyable. Now, in your own life, I've been reading quite a few things that you're enjoying life as never before.
Yes.
Would it be fair to say this is the most optimistic and upbeat time of your life? I mean, number one, you bought a house in England. How
That's
bad
very
is that?
optimistic.
A house you could grow old in. And number two, you've married, of course.
Yes, I am married.
So how do you feel today compared to the last
Like
30 years?
the last 50 years? Well, I've always been very optimistic, by the way, and I actually have had I've had a very lucky life overall. I've been able to do a lot of things that I never would have imagined I would have been able to do. But it's a very good time in my life. Yes, I'm having a wonderful time, and I'm a very lucky man to have met someone as special as my wife. So I'm very happy and very optimistic, and I'm working on my house as we speak.
Thank you very much. There's a gentleman about 7 rows back here who's got the microphone. Tim, yes? Would you like?
Hi, another question for George. What kind of message would you like this? I'm here, George.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Hiya. What kind of message would you like cinema goers to take away from this movie when they've seen it? Is there one image, one thought you'd like them to have in your mind?
I mean, I think that might be a question better for Brad. I think that for me, the one element, particularly when you're acting in a film, is, films are designed as an entertainment. You're supposed to get 2 hours of relief or something else other than what you're doing in your life for the, So for me, what you want to take away is 2 hours of enjoyment and fun and something to talk about. If along the way, you're taking your kids and you get to walk out and have conversations about other issues, well, I think that's a bonus. But I think that would be something that
Yeah, I mean, it's not supposed to be sort of a horse-sized multivitamin that will solve all your problems. It's supposed to be a good time at the movies. But some of my favorite movies are movies that stayed with me after I left the theater. And,
Reservoir Dog.
yeah. A lot of dystopian films. No, it's just, that's what I love about cinema, is it almost feels like a dream that you had that was particularly vivid. And it is a dream that you can go back and revisit and find other sides to. So if we've made that kind of movie, that would be great for me.
Okay, there's a lady here, I think, in about the 4th row. Yes, you've got the microphone.
Hello, I'm Despina from Greece, and this is a question for George.
I know it's coming. I know what it is. I bet I do. Go ahead.
No, but it can be part of it, part of your answer.
Okay.
No, I wanted to ask, how does your Tomorrowland look like, your ideal future? I know it's a big question, so maybe you could mention some of the things that today might seem, impossible and crazy, but in the near future could be possible, and what you were thinking could be one of them, what you thought I was going to ask.
I want to know what you thought she was going to say.
I think you were going to ask about the marbles, weren't you? Oh, no, I thought
I wasn't, but it's
and I was going to get me in
your
trouble in England again. Which I got the mayor of London comparing me to Nazis.
Then you feel like you've really made it.
I really survived. I don't know. What do I think of what do I think for my near future?
No, I mean how, because I know, how do you imagine the ideal future to be is a really big question. Maybe
Sure.
you could mention some things that today might seem impossible or crazy, but in the near or far future could actually, be possible, that you would like the future to
Well,
include.
it's interesting. I don't know, because when I was growing up, the future seemed like it was going to be flying cars and, all the sort of things which didn't happen. But on the other hand, we never would have thought of these things either. So, the world, the future, what you think of it being never really is, but it usually sort of surprises you in better and more interesting ways. I find that I would hope that as we get a little older and get a little more used to some of our new technologies, that we get away from them a little bit. I find that we're
Slaves.
Yeah, I was at a fundraiser with the president a few years ago, and everybody there, we were shaking hands with people, and everybody there was shaking hands like this. Hi, how are you? Hi, how you doing? Every single person. And I remember saying to him, they can't really say they met the president. They can say they filmed him, but they didn't. You see it at concerts now too. You're holding it up and watching. And I think we're losing a little bit of our living our life, and we're sort of recording it in a way.
Later.
Yeah, we're recording to watch it later. And maybe we watch it, or maybe we just send it to our friends and post it on
That'll
Facebook.
be the afterlife.
Yeah.
You just watch what you recorded.
Yeah. How was life? Oh, let's see. Oh, God, that was a great concert. I should have seen it. So
apparently I had a child.
Yeah, oh my God, I had 3. I would hope that somewhere in there we would get less in love with our technology and a little bit more in touch with one another and have face-to-face conversations and, you know, dinner tables where not everybody's sort of locked into those things. But, you know, my vision of the future is sort of getting back to letter writing, so maybe I've just got the wrong idea of the future. You know.
It's interesting, though, because my oldest boy worked for Apple and just got a job at Uber. So he's right in the high-tech sector. And his friends and he go out to dinner, and they put their cell phones in a stack in the middle of the table when they start the meal, and whoever touches theirs first has to pay for the meal for everybody. So, and they came up with this themselves, and they're the generation that is doing the 6 devices at once. And but I thought that was a really great solution to that problem.
Well, our face-to-face conversation is almost over. There's a gentleman in the front row with the last question.
Oh, thank you. I'm Marcus from Berlin. I have a question for the girls and for George. How was it like to drive George Clooney? And for George, how was it like being driven by girls?
A girl or a 12-year-old? There is a difference. You know, I have been driven by women before in my life.
Okay, 12 years old.
Crazy, actually. But it was a little odd when you saw Raffey get behind the wheel. It's a little nerve-wracking. But she's actually 36 years old. What was it? Did you enjoy driving?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get to do it too much, but I had driving lessons and it was fun. And I remember one time when we were going down the hill, and I had to like stop just before we got to the curb, and you went stop because I was like that far away from.
Well, we were on camera at the time, and I was like trying not to talk because we were on camera, but I really needed her to stop at that point. So I was like, stop it. If it was any other 12-year-old, I would have been really afraid. I'm not gonna lie, but it was Raffey. She's very capable. She had the lessons, so it was fine. It was great.
Yeah, more 12-year-olds should drive.
If there's one thing to be gleaned from this film,
12-year-olds should be driving. Give them their license earlier.
We
They make rubber cars.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I ask you to thank our guests this afternoon?
Thank you, guys. Your phone I was stealing, wasn't it? Have fun, you guys. See you. Stay dry.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys,
Is that
yeah.
from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey